Welcome to our Hangout. Thank you very
Yeah,
much for joining in. Uh, I saw your profile and you've been working with Acer for 14 years. That's a lot of
yeah.
time. That's a lot of experience. That's a lot of value added to the same company. Could you take us through your journey at Acer and what have you been doing from day one till today? Especially with digital becoming extremely essential for brands. How have you sort of tried to adopt that? Your holistic journey, basically.
Sure, I'll do that. See, Acer in India is an entity which came out of a joint venture with Wipro. That was sometime in '99, and we set our footprint as a 100% owned national subsidiary of Acer Inc. Worldwide, which is headquartered in Taiwan. When we came to the country, we had a legacy of being an enterprise-oriented company to the extent that we were diametrically opposite to what Acer stood for worldwide, which was a consumer-oriented company. It also had relevance because in India at that time consumer market was not very big and it was the enterprise which was firing in terms of consuming PCs. But more to keep in tune with the changing times, more to keep in tune with our DNA worldwide of being a consumer oriented company. At the end of the first year of our operation in India, without giving up our enterprise strength, we started focusing on consumer and went about doing a couple of things to become relevant to the consumer market, starting with notebook as a product category which we felt was ripe for becoming mass. Till then it was not. Okay, till then it was not, and I think we take credit for being one of the first to bring the notebook price points to very affordable levels, and after that the market has really exploded a lot. So what we did in our consumer journey was build our brand, not the conventional way of over the top advertising and so on, which was there, but we said we need to be close to the customer and came out with a kind of a retail strategy, which in our parlance we used to call a one-page MOU. That's what the industry talks about. We engaged with a whole slew of entrepreneurs, engaging with them in a promise of what the mutual deliverables are in a one page, and we gave them a branding right as an Acer Mall, which was an exclusive Acer store, or an Acer Point, which was a multi-brand store. And that journey took us to a level where currently roughly about 50% of our business comes from the consumer space and 50% comes from the erstwhile enterprise space, which we in our lexicon call as relationship business, which typically goes to large enterprises like BFSI, government, some of the large insurance companies, ITES companies, corporates, and so on. So that is where we are. Quickly jumping the gun into looking at what digital meant for us. About 2.5 years back, we realized that there is some emerging space called digital. We need to get relevant in that space. We were babes in the wood. We really didn't know much there, and we were looking for an opportunity to, like we did for the notebooks. When we came to the country, we said notebooks is something which will help us vault into prominence, into relevance to the consumer's mind. We said, is there some platform, some opportunity which will give us a more than proportionate return if we start investing in digital? And that we were a worldwide exclusive sponsor for Olympic hardware came out to be a nice opportunity. So we said we'll use that platform. It also so happened that we were renewing our relationship with Hrithik Roshan as a brand ambassador, right? So we put both these together and came out with a digital campaign called the StandForIndia campaign. It was 360 degrees in that it was not just about Acer Facebook pumping out messages about feel proud to be an Indian and start wishing the Indian contingent all the best for the Olympics, but it went to a 360-degree approach where we had a print campaign which also drew in a lot of interest and traffic into the digital world. We also tied it up with a lot of BTL activities. As an example, Sania Mirza, we identified which school she had studied in, and since she was also representing India for tennis in the Olympics, we went about doing some kind of a buzz within her school itself. Right, we got all the students there during the anthem time to stand up and wish her all the best, and we did like 4 or 5 such schools with 4 or 5 such Olympic athletes, and beyond that into some schools as well, normal schools as well, and that really pushed our Facebook following number by more than 2x during that 1.5 month time frame, and we started learning what it meant to be in the social media space, what it meant to use Twitter as a powerful tool, what it meant to have some kind of engagement activities like games in the social media space, all encompassing the brand promise and at the same time making it very interesting and relevant for the target audience. So that is a quick journey of how we moved from stepping our foot into India in '99 to what we did around the Olympic campaign. And after that, we have been doing a lot of campaigns which are theme based, linked to our TV commercial, linked to some other initiative. When we talk of a new product launch, for example, Ultrabooks was a product we launched. We were ahead of the curve and we wanted to get the message of it being very thin, light, long battery hour. So we had a gamification of that entire engagement. We had a game where people in the Facebook could engage, play the game very elegantly and get a reward as well. We also expanded the social media to amplify our worldwide green contest. There was a worldwide green contest which we did. And I'm proud to say that India, there were about 6 teams who came to the finals and 3 of them were sent to Taiwan as well. Right. So again, we use the social media to really bring about a lot of relevance and engagement and buzz and involvement from the student community.
Interesting. That's a lot of activities that you've done towards digital. I myself have a lot of questions. Acer being such a big brand, the topic of our hangout is also how to look at social media for big brands. So we already have questions starting to pour in. So I'll take those first, and if something is not covered, then I'll shoot out my queries.
Sure.
So we have Keshav Saini asking us. 2 years down the line, where do you see social media in a brand's marketing strategy and spends?
Social media is still evolving, more so in India. And if it's specific to Acer, we believe that it can easily contribute. I'm not talking of social media per se, I'm talking of digital marketing in a larger sense. It could easily be 10% of our total spend. And right now, we have used it both for, we cover the entire gamut of sales and after sales support. After sales support has been more accentuated because we have a very targeted engine there to respond very fast to any escalations, any complaints, any machine downtime related escalations which come in at one end of the spectrum. In sales, we have fundamentally used it for more for getting a brand promise out, whether it's a new product, new offering, or any awards which we have won at the global level, like a Red Dot Award, an IF Award. We use that to socialize with the target medium. But moving forward, we believe that since our target audience is the age group between 25 to 35, potentially we may also look at getting a lot of crowdsourced ideas coming from that space and making it relevant for us to fine-tune our offering, whether it could be a product or a price or an offering per se, relevant to the Indian audience.
So when you say sales and after sales, how do you, what's the mechanism like, or how is your sort of connect between your offline sales service departments and your social media digital team? Still same for sales, how is your digital sales lead closes? Where do you put the loop in respect to your offline sales team? What is the connect like? How does that whole thing fall into place?
Yeah, I'll give a very simple model here. Fundamentally, we are an indirect business model company. We don't sell directly to customers. Right? That's what we believe in, and that's our philosophy worldwide, which is one of the reasons why, although we are a $12 billion company, our manpower strength is just about 8,000 worldwide. So we really leverage the benefits and the strengths of the other partners in the ecosystem and focus on what is core to us, which is to understand the customer, come up with design of products, get it manufactured by ODM. But sales and marketing and after sales support is within our charter in terms of addressing the need in the market. Having said that, how do we tie up all this together? In our print campaigns, obviously, we have messaging which leads customers to get in touch with us through the social media platform. But more importantly, in the social media platform, whatever inquiries, interest levels come in, we have a very proper scientific tracking mechanism to respond to that, ratchet it up to a level of seriousness, and then pass that on as a proper lead to our BDM. Our BDM is a business development manager who then passes it to my retail outlet, which is in the proximity of the place where this inquiry originated from. And then the last mile gets connected by the dealer getting in touch with the customer or otherwise and potentially closing it for sale. That's the sales part. Coming to the after sales support part, again, it's been a learning for us. Earlier, it used to be the whole space of same conversation also having customers talking about after sales support. Then we have fine-tuned it, refined it to have a separate tab for customers who have product related issues, support related issues to go there and plonk in their request. It also becomes a nice place for one of the peer members there himself kind of suggesting a solution. It's not that always a solution has to come from Acer. It could be something which one of the peer groups in that community has encountered the problem earlier. Yeah, has encountered a problem earlier. He's found a solution. So it becomes one feeding the other. But if there are specific escalations to a downtime, to a product which is broken and they need a support, on a daily basis, there is a dedicated resource who goes through it, highlights those, and farms out those customer escalation points to the relevant entities within the organization. It could be tech support related, it could be bug fix, it could be a part replacement, it could be some of my authorized support partner in Guntur not responding. Any and all of these gets farmed out to those relevant points of contact, and we have seen in real statistics that the resolution time has really improved a lot. It's come down to the extent there have been a lot of positive feedback and comments coming from the customers as well. So that's how we loop in both the sales and support part.
That's a very impressive turnaround that the company has brought about internally, right? I mean, there's a lot of all these systems would have to be built and put in place, and the right kind of team would have to be gathered and placed at different touch points.
You're right. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
Okay, great. We have Rahul Shah asking how much of your offline customer service process has been integrated in your online campaigns. I think you've pretty much somehow summarized that, but if you want to sort of answer this again. Should I repeat the question?
Yeah, no, I have it. I'm seeing it here. It says offline customer service processes have been integrated in your online campaign. So fundamentally, we really believe in our brick and mortar as the base to deliver the support. It's only the point of escalations. It becomes an easy point for the customer to get in touch with us. It's a social media. We have other points of contact as well. There is a 24/7. There is a call center. There is an email. There is an SMS chat. All of which funnels into finally a brick and mortar outlet to deliver the after sales support. Beyond that, if it's a tech query, as I said, sometimes it gets resolved within the community itself as one peer advising the other saying, hey, I came across this issue. It's actually not an issue. You do this, it gets done. Or you go and get the latest driver downloaded, it fixes this problem. Or sometimes my tech resource person also on an SMS chat or on through Facebook gives a resolution or a solution over the electronic media itself.
I'm very curious to understand, these are all changes internally done. Do you have a digital team that supports you just for all of this, or did they help you set it up, or these are all internal learnings? Which also, an extension to this question is also that how do you, in your marketing, your conventional marketing, you can have an agency and your entire work in the outsource. The accountability to the internal team is very limited. And digital is the other way around. So how does your engagement with the agency work?
Yeah, so we have one dedicated resource as part of our Marcom team who's chartered with the responsibility of digital marketing. But as you rightly said, and as I explained earlier, as an entity, we are always a very small team and try to leverage the expertise and domain knowledge from our ecosystem partners. So we do have an agency on board which is only dedicated on digital, which is distinctly different from what my media or my creative agency is. So they have the expertise, they have the domain knowledge, they have the manpower to help us roll out our campaigns, to come out with creative which is relevant for the digital media space, different form factors, whether it's for a mobile, it's a screen, or it's a Facebook or a Twitter and so on. They repurpose it, reformat it for relevant consumption in a different form factor. So it's a mix of both. So the objectives and strategy is clear from our side. How it gets translated, morphed into relevance in the digital media space is what we leverage the expertise of an outside agency.
Great. You also mentioned Hrithik Roshan as being the brand ambassador. How do you sort of utilize brand ambassadors on the digital space?
Yeah, we have utilized them in a couple of ways, especially in the digital marketing space, because there is an element of sensitivity there. It's not like a print campaign or a TVC campaign. Here, there has to be a need for interactivity. So, to that extent, we have to respect the preferences of the celebrity on how deeply he wants to get engaged in the space. So, we do use him for, as I said, if it's a social media platform and we're talking of a social cause, much like an Olympic which was for Stand for India campaign. It was all about whipping up the national fervor, patriotism, to get everybody to stand up and wish the Indian contingent all the best for the Olympic campaign, right? So it was a one way kind of messaging from him, where he was urging the fans to join the movement at one level. Recently, we had another campaign which was called Click Karo Dreams. It was more sales embedded, where we used his personality to draw a lot of attention, a lot of engagement for people to articulate their dreams. What the youngster, target audience again being 18 to 25 or 30, who wanted to articulate what they aspired to do in life, and he portrayed himself, the celebrity portrayed himself as a person belonging to that milieu, right? He had a lot of challenges as Ritik, and how he overcame those to become a star today, and that was kept as a large aura at the background, and his messaging and asking people to come forward to come and articulate their dreams. It was a kind of a viral campaign where at the end of the day, all those proposals which came from people got evaluated and finally rewarded. Shortlisted finalists were there, and then it got rewarded. So we use a brand ambassador in a way, as I mentioned, but again, the caution point is it's not in a very interactive way, because there are sensitivities and there are preferences from the celebrity on how he would like to get engaged in an interactive online real-time mode.
We have Manhar who's asking again. I think customer service is the most interesting topic in digital today. Has customer service going social added more complexity?
At a very fundamental level, it's been a very humbling experience for us. It's not about complexity, it's about us learning that there's a lot of relevant points coming through that media, and it has helped us respond faster. If it were a non-social media, non-digital platform, by the time the escalation bubbles up to us in a conventional way through my authorized support partner, through my regional head, to my tech support head here, and then it gets turned around, there is always a latency for getting a feedback to the customer. This way, we have found the response time has really improved dramatically. So it's not about complexity in as much as the organization, culturally reinventing itself to the new order, which is the need of the hour anyway.
Which also, again, an extension question, has customer support on social media reduced cost?
Sorry, I didn't get you.
Versus
social media?
So, on customer support on social media,
okay,
has it decreased cost of handling customer support versus offline? Like, does that impact cost?
I think it's too early to say that, given the complexity in India, when infrastructure is still a problem. It's not that in a tier 2 or a tier 3 town, a person is having this digital connectivity, robust connectivity, to use it as a reliable medium. So I would say it's an added avenue which has brought in a heightened level of sensitivity within the organization to turn things around fast, but it's not a tool to say that it's really brought down the interaction in the real brick and mortar world.
We have Ashwin who's asking, are there any brands that you really look up to in terms of how they approach social media? Do you model yourself after them?
The simple answer is not really, because the business model we run is reasonably unique. While IT product is a standard, our business model, as I said, it's predicated on a lot of indirect partner relationships to move it forward. Having said that, given that Acer is a global entity with about footprint in about 80 odd countries, we do have workshops where we leverage the best practices of an Acer America or an Acer Europe or an Acer Australia, and kind of use that synergy to cross-pollinate better ideas.
Okay. Have you Okay, that's a repetitive question about customer support, and like I said, it's the hot topic. Which platform has given you the best results so far?
Okay, so let me just step back a bit and again articulate that we have two lines of business. One is consumer and commercial. Um, I will limit this answer only to the consumer space because commercial space is not so amenable for transacting business which gets influenced by or gets generated by a social media space. When I talk of the commercial business, we are talking of sales cycle being very long, very rational buying happening, products getting benchmarked, evaluated, and so on. So I'll keep that aside. As far as consumer space is concerned, we use a mix of Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Fundamentally, these are the three, and we have found all of them equally useful. But I think somewhere Twitter is gaining an edge in terms of immediacy and fastness and swiftness. In terms of generating interest level, one is able to understand whatever is the objective, whatever is the campaign we are running, is it syncing with the customer segment? We are able to get a faster response in that space. But otherwise, we rely on a Facebook, which today is about 1 million plus in terms of followers, and that's fairly big critical mass to use it very intelligently.
So, when we're talking about platforms, if we're comparing amongst digital social media platforms, what do you think conventional platforms versus digital platforms? Of course, there's a lot of difference in terms of the fact that this is very interactive, this is not, this is one way. And taking it a step further, how do you sort of integrate both of them? You know, have your digital campaigns go offline, or have your offline TVCs clubbing back to digital? Have you guys done something of that sort? Have, say, Hrithik Roshan asked people to tweet on a TVC?
As I said, there are sensitivities in using a celebrity for an interactive portion like that. But we have taken the TVC campaigns and posted it on YouTube as one simple example and seen that it's at a good follower base. We have had some campaigns where if it's a slightly different, complicated product, we have done a kind of a YouTube out of the box experience for some products. Okay, where it becomes easy for the lay person to just watch it and understand this is how I engage with the product, this is how I exploit its feature benefits, these are the hidden strengths that the product has, which otherwise is not immediately visible or obvious. We have used it in that manner.
Okay, interesting. Jennifer's asking how much emphasis should be placed on social media as an engagement tool versus a means to achieve business goals, which actually even gets to a question as to what are Acer's primary goals through digital.
Yeah, our objective in adopting digital platform is fundamentally to communicate our brand promise in a very relevant, compelling way, given the larger context of people consuming content anytime, anywhere, any form factor, any device. It is important for us to be relevant and not be stuck in the wood with just a print campaign or a radio campaign or a commercial TVC campaign, right? So we definitely are seeing the change happening there, and our objective is to become relevant in the new way that customers are consuming content. Okay, that's the primary part. Beyond that, we definitely want to drive a business goal of using this platform to relevantly communicate our new product offering, our mechanism of service addressal, which I mentioned earlier, of how we have fine-tuned our social media vehicle to be more responsive, be more targeted, and be more specific to turn around things faster. So our objective is very clear. With our target audience changing in their buying behavior, their consumption behavior, we need to repurpose ourselves to be relevant to them, irrespective of where they are consuming content, how they are consuming it, through which device they are consuming it.
So, which device brings me to mobile? Is that, I think one of our questions is also that. Is mobile big in India? Does Acer look at it? Does brand heads should be evolved and willing to?
Yeah, so candidly, frankly speaking, we have not adopted mobile in a very big way. Right now, it is limited to conventional social media vehicles purposed for a notebook or a desktop or a tablet. Fundamentally, we have not really gone the full way to talk of engagement with the customer in a mobile space. maybe it is something we will learn and move forward. But we believe that based on some experiences we have had, some studies which have shown that people, when they are looking at buying a device which is slightly expensive, right? Whether you're talking of a notebook or a tablet from a branded player, you're talking of price points typically in the 15,000, 20,000, 30,000 point. What you can communicate through the digital media is something which gives them a convenience of exploring the product virtually, all right, but it's a larger screen which is called for. Unlike somebody wanting to gift somebody a birthday gift or indulge in something which is an apparel or a costume jewelry and so on, that the involvement is much lighter, if I can use that word. It's a light touch. So we believe that for our product category, probably mobile may be useful, but not immediate from our point of view.
I have, this is my favorite topic, data analysis. How do you think, there's so many conversations happening online with respect to laptops, with respect to product categories, with respect to brand name. Do you have a mechanism to track all of these conversations, the brand and the broader category as itself? Or that is, say, a keyword, tracking a keyword as simple as a laptop. Do you also take a step ahead and track, say, your consumer is a 22-year-old college-going male, female, for example? Do you track what that kind of consumer would do online, what platforms they would be on, what they tweet about, what kind of food they like, what kind of clothes they like, and sort of use that information or that data to drive your marketing initiatives or your offline initiatives or your product innovations? So any kind of data analysis that is used to back any business function?
Yeah, I'll just talk of two things. Definitely that space is very large. As far as India is concerned, as I said, we have a outsourced agency who monitors the conversation happening in the space, and on a real-time basis captures those and funnels it back to the backend team at Acer, whether it is a sales lead or a complaint or an after-sales support issue, so that it gets resolved fast. To that extent, the data analysis is real-time. Okay? To do something proactively, our digital agency does keep its eyes and ears tuned into looking at some blogs, some communities, which is relevant for a target audience. We talk of a target audience as equally split between male and female gender, 25 to 35, youth, and there are some more parameters. So they use this and keep plugging into such communities, such blogs, to understand what is happening there, and if there is a point of relevance, let's say there is a tech talk which is happening, or there is something which is trending about something happening in CES Las Vegas where there is a new product launched, that becomes a right trigger for our agency to pull out some digital content from us. It could be about the product, it could be about the award. This is relevant in that space at that time and feeds it into that larger space of that blogosphere. So that's the way we're using it right now.
Okay. Another extension to this question is, I've read a quote also, may I have one of those questions also. In the years to come, in the decades to come, the technology budget is going.
I think you got muted.
Yeah, the technology, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can, yeah.
Yeah, so the technology budget is going to be more with the CMO than, with the CMO than the tech head, the IT head. Is that what you're also looking at in the years to come with respect to Acer and India as a whole? The technology is going to support social a lot and marketing a lot, so which is why CMO is going to lead a majority chunk of it.
Okay. Again, I'll go back to the culture at Acer. Acer is a very small, tight team, and the way we are structured is we have CXO level people, which is a CMO, there is a CIO, there is a CSO, and there is a CFO. The culture at Acer is that the boundaries are not very clearly drawn. It's not a silo, right? So it's possible that a new initiative in the digital space could come from somebody handling a sales function, courtesy his interaction with, let's say, a large enterprise. Let's, for example, say that we are servicing a more knowledgeable, more intense customer like an FMCG entity. Obviously, they'll be using this vehicle or this tool much more strongly than an entity who's in the IT hardware business. if that brings about a thought process, we are quite open to adopt that, explore it, invest in this. Because in the area of digital marketing, the way we believe it is to experiment, monitor, review, and change. We keep doing this cycle time in and time out, because there's nothing fixed here. There's nothing which is static. There's nothing which can be deterministic here. So as we see it, yes, the CMO also has a very important role, because at the end of the day, the voice of the customer is best heard through this articulation of the CMO's vehicles. But what goes in the background can be a pool of content, full of triggers coming in from other functions as well.
So as a whole, Acer is a pretty social brand internally.
It is, but if you ask me, I still think we have a long way to go.
How do you encourage other brands? I know of a lot of brands that are very, very rigid when it comes to digital social. The top reason being that they are very uncomfortable with the platform. They don't understand the platform, and they're not very open to adopt, use social across various business functions. Do you also use it for various business functions, be it HR, hiring,
Yeah, HR,
training, employee interaction?
we do. Internally, we do it. But just to come back to the question of how to encourage brands to go social, I think one will have to tether it to what is the business the brand is in. It's very critical, right? If somebody is in some heavy industrial equipment kind of business line, probably social may not be a very relevant immediate tool. But if somebody is in the consumer space, where he's got a target audience which is one which is young, yuppie, which is primed to consume content through all these new platforms, then obviously I think they'll have to take steps to move into the direction. And for people in that space to get quickly convinced, I think the service route would be the best, right? If they put their neck out and say that, let me use this tool to understand how am I delivering on the after sales support area, there will be bricks, there will be bouquets, there will be brickbats. But I think it's one of the fastest learning experiences to understand the power of what social can do to change the mindset within the organization and to help the organization fine tune itself to deliver what is relevant for the customer.
So is this mostly to be driven by the CMO, which we have that question, will digital CMO become an important position going forward?
I would say though, I would definitely think so. More than digital CMO, I would say there is it's a new terminology. I think it should be a central digital officer. It's not about driving initiatives. I think it's more to understand the evolving space of digital and how well he can link it to the business line and champion it and steer it within the other peers within the organization. Because first, if there is a good appreciation of what is happening in the ecosystem in the digital space, and that is best articulated by the so-called CDO, Central Digital Officer, I think it becomes easier for bringing about cultural change.
A couple of minutes back, you talked about business functions working in silos. How do you encourage brands to have that sort of a very fluid environment? The employees to be, willing to come up and take accountability for digital for their own vertical. It doesn't have to be necessarily be the CDO. How do you sort of encourage other brands to do it? How do you do it yourself, and how would you encourage your peers to do that?
Yeah, I think it's fundamentally to do with the culture of the company, right? So if it's a very open culture where people at the senior level don't mind getting mentored by people at the junior level in these new areas, right? If that is a culture, I think it can permeate very fast. But if there is something very rigid and you need to break the silo, you can do it only by having successful case studies. You talk of successful practices within a silo, or you talk of successful practices in the industry with peer groups. It's possible that you may have a peer in the industry who's adopted this, he is ahead of the curve, and if it is linked to demonstrable business results, that can start changing the mindset in a siloed environment. But I think the fundamental point is that it goes beyond just a digital or a non-digital part. It's to do with the culture of the company being open to unlearn and learn things. If that is there, and if that culture can be brought about, this is just one of those other add-on things which can be steered within the organization.
This brings me to another question. When you talk about work culture, how open is Acer, and how much do you think a brand should be open to having their employees be the voice on social digital? You know, a lot of brands have Facebook, Twitter blocked in their organizations, uh, citing productivity as a reason. But I think, in my personal opinion, I think it can be the employees can become the voice of the company. What does Acer think about it?
Yeah, so let me be candid and say 2.5 years back when we stepped into this digital platform, we also had a similar mindset. We said, does it mean that people are going to waste time doing all this? But I think there was a very quick change in the mindset, and we realized that the gains which can happen by keeping it more open, much more flatter, far outweighs any of these so-called mini excursions which people do into non-official work. Okay. Uh, so how do we do it? We encourage people definitely to talk about the brand. However, in an organization, there are layers and layers and levels, which is to do with the maturity level of what a person understands about the brand. It's not so much about him blurting out something which is inappropriate, but if he gets to communicate it in a manner which is not consistent with what the brand stands for, then obviously there is a dissonance in the outside world when it hears from an employee of the organization itself. To that extent, we are cautious in terms of communicating within our team what are the do's and don'ts, which has to be very clear. Those game rules have to be very clear on what an employee can communicate about, talk about, what he should not talk about, what is the kind of language he should use, and that's a kind of tight, loose culture we are trying to encourage. But broadly,
I'm
I
sure
would
it's a
say
very big challenge.
it is a challenge. But I think it's not limited to what the company should mandate, because at the end of the day the world is becoming very connected, it's becoming very open, and you can't go against the tide. Why would you want to?
So, in one of the conferences, I had heard somebody say that the mind space of CMO has very little space for digital because the numbers are really small. Like you said, 10% of your budget is digital. Your 90% of your budget is still offline. Uh, why would a CMO give any space to digital? Why should they? Is it justified for a big brand where 90% of probably 90% of the if investment is 90%, the ROI is also 90% from offline versus digital. How much of the mind space should be allocated to digital? Should it increase? Should it just be there for hygiene's sake? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. See, this is an area which is evolving. I don't think there's a very hard and fast rule there. But if one were to look at global statistics, look at some of the other industries which definitely are far ahead in the curve. If you talk of an FMCG global major, if it's a P&G or a Johnson and Johnson and so on, even there, I mean, one would assume that we can give the credit of them being more knowledgeable and more competent in understanding all this, because they are interacting with the end customer in a much more direct way, in a product which is low cost, higher indulgence, right, in that space. So even there, I don't think it's really crossed 10 or 12 or 13% at most. So that becomes some kind of a benchmark or an overarching guideline saying that you seem to be there in that space. But as you said, it is something which has to evolve. To answer your question about ROI, in the business world today, that is a reality. People have to look at investment and what does it mean for the brand. To that extent, if a print ad or a TVC is able to give me very clear, demonstrable statistics saying there is a reach for so many people, there are so many inquiries which has got generated through the print ad, and one is able to link it to investment versus return, that definitely becomes a factor in consideration. At the same time, in the digital part, all ROI cannot be really measured in terms of sales. So if it means that the buzz factor, the temperature for the brand in the social media space is fairly positive for the brand, that's a good thing to have, right? So I think it's a judgmental call depending on what is the objective of the business, what is the business line the company is in, the brand is in, and deploying resources which is in proportion to that. I am in a video conference. I'll call you back later. Sorry. Yeah.
That's all right.
Okay.
So we talked about conversations being positive. What do you think about public shaming? I mean, I don't like my product and I tweet it out, and I make 10 of my friends support me, retweet me, or share it on. That sort of become a norm. Brands are not allowed to make mistakes. Brands are not allowed to have faulty products anymore. Brands are not allowed anymore to keep me waiting on an IVR. This Suddenly the consumer is extremely raged, and they have this following. Each one of them has become a publisher and has a following. How does a brand deal with that? And a big brand with so many touch points where trying to maintain quality, consistency is always a challenge day in and day out.
Yeah, I think the simple answer is go back to your young days where your parents told you if there is a mistake, please own up, be honest, and if the world order has changed where this medium provides the comfort to the customer to share it with his friends and peers, that's a new reality. We have to be alive to that. All it means to the brand is that you be honest to your values, you be honest to your promise, and if you made a mistake, be candid to accept the mistake and see how quickly you can set it right.
That takes a lot of courage for a brand to do that, to be transparent and accountable on an open platform where consumers are ready to take you on.
Yeah, but I don't think you can hide. You have to face the music if I made a mistake. There's no place to hide today, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. This is an interesting question about the new buzzword influencers on digital or Twitter or social media or Facebook. Is
Mhm.
Acer, works with influencers regularly, or evangelists, with respect to say tech bloggers or just business on small and medium business owners who use laptops, technology as their day in day out work life. Do you sort of have programs or ways to use them to help increase reach?
Yeah, we depend on our PR agency and our digital agency to advise us on who are these people who have the right reputation, who have the right competence, and we do engage with them. So if it's a new product launch, for example, we had launched the world's first Windows tablet on an 8-inch form factor. So specifically as a strategy, when the press launch was done, we said, is there a way we can engage with 2 or 3 influential bloggers, techie persons in the journalist world who would be able to do a very unbiased review of the product and help propagate their analysis or their review or their critique about the product. Yes, we do engage in that space, but we are cautious to go with what the advisory is given to us by a professional like a digital agency or the PR, and just not go by what is our gut feel or what is our feel factor.
Okay, okay. So, which is actually a leading question, digital PR. Do you think that has more power now than conventional PR? I mean, stories have broken over digital. We've seen that day in and day out. Newspapers, television channels do stories with respect to what happened on social media, who tweeted what. Does that sort of help brands reach out, cut that middleman journalists as we call them, and just use digital as spreading out, say, a launch of a product or a launch of a new program or whatever?
Yeah, see,
It's like
one has to be realistic to where we are operating. We are operating in India, right? So I mean, you look at PC penetration, internet penetration, it's woefully inadequate. So I think each platform has its relevance. Digital could be more to a young group, well connected, probably urban centers or the top 8 cities where connectivity is very strong. But by the same token, it's not that this news is not relevant, this news is not germane for people in B towns, B class towns, or C class towns, where a print would do its due diligence. So I think it's a healthy mix of both which has to be adopted, especially in a country like India where connectivity is not a given. Robust connectivity is definitely not a guaranteed given. So I think it has to be a proper balance between the two.
Okay. There's somebody asking us about videos. Are videos something that you're excited about using, say, tutorials for how to use your products, educate the consumer, maybe use YouTube or Vimeo as a platform?
My answer is at two levels. See, being a global company, from our global website, people can access some of these digital assets. It could be YouTube for a new product, or they could go to a website and get to see some video clips on using a product. But coming to India, our experience has been that, again, it goes back to some of my earlier points. The divide between the haves and have-nots, the comfort of connectivity, and the point of low penetration for IT products, there is still a lot of weightage and premium given to people wanting to touch and feel a product, which is why we do have a very healthy retail footprint covering about 450 touch points in brick and mortar. In addition, we have the large format retailers like Chroma, Reliance, Hypercity, and so on, where our products get ranged. And the buying behavior today is, even if the brand is really good, there is a lot of reliability on the product. The last mile experience is something which the customer does not want to miss. By going into a shop, looking at an array of products, getting a sense of feel, how light is it, how heavy is it, getting to be engaged with a salesperson who gives him the pitch of why this product is more relevant for him, what are the things it can do for him. That part of the buying cycle cannot be wished away, again in India. So while digital can help in tutorials and product knowledge dissemination, the crux of the final buying still comes to the last mile in a shop, in a retail outlet. Let me add one other small point. To beef up the buying experience in an Acer branded outlet, we've also tried to embed it with something called a digital signage, which means it's a pilot we are running right now. We have large screens in some select 50 Acer malls, which are Acer exclusive stores, where through a server and through a software, we pipe in relevant content to that store. So if I'm launching a product today in Bangalore and I have an outlet, let's say in an interior Jalandhar, right? How do I get this message across to them on a contemporaneous mode? I use this vehicle, that's the intent. We have started a pilot where at the same time I can pipe in this content into the digital signage, so walk-in customers can get to see and experience a product. More importantly, since it is available 24/7, during off-peak hours, I'm using it to train my counter salesperson. This vehicle is used as a training tool, which can be interactive as well, where I can deploy a quiz, he can answer, I can poll it. So that's what the software does. So I'm trying to use digital in a slightly different manner to make it more uniform in terms of product knowledge dissemination and engagement and interactivity.
That's very interesting and futuristic.
Yeah.
We're fast forward, just last couple of things we'll take into consideration. How open are you to being active on digital platforms yourself?
As I said, we started learning about this power of digital about 2.5 years back. So I am a convert, but I still think I have a long way to go to fully adopt it and fully expose myself there. But I'm keen to learn.
That's all that's needed, I think, the seeking mind. So we'll just wrap it up with a few last thoughts from you with respect to how bigger brands need to sort of spin around internally and get really comfortable with digital and adopt it. What do you think? Just summarize your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think if somebody is planning to get into the digital space, they need to be very clear on what their business objectives are. They need to understand the domain they are in, and they need to understand the target customer. Right? Once that is done, things will start falling into a logical mode in terms of what digital platforms do you adopt, what social media tools do you use, what are the things you need to track, what are the things you need to be sensitive to respond. It's not that you have to build an infrastructure to every chirp that is coming out from the digital world, right? You need to prioritize and bring about a consistent way of addressing it across platforms, across form factors, uh, and it has to be 24/7. So at the end of the day, there is a customer out there who wants to consume content at his convenience. And convenience is about time, space, the gadget that he uses, and the organization needs to, if required, reinvent itself to get all the messaging massaged or maneuvered to reach at the point of consumption which is convenient for the customer.
Very interesting session. Thank you for all the inputs that you gave us, and very glad to have you and share your thoughts on your journey.
Thanks a lot to you and the Social Samosa platform to giving me an opportunity to
Yes.
reach out to the audience. I hope it was useful. Thank you very much.
It was very much, and I thank all the people who shot their questions on Twitter.
Absolutely.
And also the sponsor that we have, What Consult. And
Sure.
looking forward to having you share more and more knowledge with us in the coming months and years.
It will be my privilege and honor. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Sure.